Just took the engine back out. I'm working on putting the clutch kit and the flywheel in tonight. Hopefully I'll get it done tonight. We'll see. Just got the pilot bushing installed. It's a graphite impregnated bushing. Machined for the VW crank, part of the Acme adapters kit. Alright, the clutch is installed obviously. All went together pretty smooth, so next I gotta lift the engine back up and seal the oil pan. Now November 8th and we've made a little bit more progress. Yesterday the clutch kit came in, so I got that installed last night. It's an F1 Racing Stage 2 clutch. They claim it's rated to hold 289 foot-pounds of torque. So hopefully that'll be enough. Who knows exactly what I'll be putting out at the flywheel, but the larger or the more substantial clutches, past that we're getting into the race clutch stage, and I didn't want that. This is going to be a daily driver. So I didn't want to go with a ceramic clutch that's going to be difficult to work with, and it's pretty hard on the flywheel too. So who knows how it'll hold up. We'll just have to try it out. So tonight I got the starter on. That came in today, so obviously that's on and bolted down and in place. Pretty simple. And I also got the clutch slave cylinder bolted up, and the clutch pedal feels pretty good. Last night I turned the crank over by hand with it in gear, with the transmission in gear, and it did roll the vehicle forward. So I know we're at least doing something right back there. Hopefully it all works as planned. It should. It looks like it lined up. Everything went together well. And got all the bell housing bolts installed and torqued down now. And the engine lift is finally out of the way, so it's a lot easier to work. So here's where we are now. Factory AC compressor fits. I just had to notch out the mount down here. And there was a small tab right here that I just cut off with the Sawzall, and now it fits great. The only problem I ran into is I wasn't smart enough to have the clutch or the AC compressor on when I mocked up the engine mount, and wouldn't you know, it's barely touching the mount. So that kind of stinks, but it's not a major problem. I think I can just notch the hole for the mount and notch the bracket here, the pipe there, and just slide it over. I don't need much room, just a little bit, so I think I can work around it and not have to do any major rework. At first I'm not even going to run air conditioning. That's just there for the belt routing. So that center part, which drives the shaft of the compressor, won't even be turning. So at first it won't really even make a difference. So for now, I'm not going to worry about it. I might work on it another day, but I want to get other things done first. Forgot to say that just for grins, I put the factory turbo on the head here, and it does not fit. It hits the starter. So just in case somebody else is wondering and wanting to do this, you'd have to come up with another solution. So it isn't a big deal for me. I was planning on running an aftermarket turbo. already have a GTB 1756 VK turbo, and most likely I'm just going to make my own manifold. I've already got a flange, 1/2 inch thick laser cut flange, ready to go. So soon I'll be fabricating an exhaust manifold, probably a log style, and I'll locate the turbo exactly where I want it. As I've been working the last few nights, I've made a pretty big mess, which happens when you're working. You just get stuff out and you got to put it away. So my workbench here is just covered in junk. my bolt bins, drill bits, empty boxes, bunch of trash, the washer can, everything's out and it needs to be put away. Got a bunch of crap on the toolbox too. Usually at the end of every day I try to clean up as much as I can, get everything put away, that way you know if you've lost anything. Clean off all my tools. That way when I start back work the next day, it's just a lot easier to get going. Things are in place, easy to find and ready to go. And that's how I keep up with my tools. It really makes a difference. I even did this when I was a professional auto tech, and I just couldn't stand having things not where they're supposed to be, because it really slows you down when you have to stop to find a tool. Everything has a place, and if it's not there, I get worried. I have to look for it. Tools are not cheap, especially the good ones, so it's important to keep up with all your stuff and take care of your tools. Really makes a difference in the long run. Nothing worse than having to buy a nice tool twice because you lost it. Made a little bit more progress. I put the intake manifold on just so I can see what kind of room it's going to take. Hopefully the next day or two I can start figuring out what parts I'm going to need to make the exhaust manifold. Probably going to make it out of Schedule 40 weld L's. I've got the header flange and the turbo flange, so now I just got to put it all together. I think I can reuse that factory oil return line. We'll have to see how it lines up, but I think it's going to work. Last night I put some more stuff on the engine just so I can start seeing what kind of room I'm going to need and where things are going to fall. Put the injectors in. They'll come back out. I'm putting different nozzles in later, but I need them in for the moment. And then also the glow plug harness is pretty rotten. The rubber ends are falling off, so that'll be replaced down in here. But I needed to see where the harness was going to be and how that was going to line up. And I think soon I'm going to be taking this coolant pipe out and modifying it so it'll reach the heater core. Go ahead and get that done before it gets buried with the oil filter and the cooler assembly and the harness and all that stuff. So I got the smaller half of the harness all on the engine. So there it is. That was easy. Obviously that was the easy part. Then we got to figure out the rest of this. It's not too bad. It's just taking a little bit of time, but it's not that bad so far. Currently working on removing the circuits for the coolant glow plugs because I won't have room to keep those in there. So I'm going to simplify the harness where I can. And then after that, well, most of the work is going to be in all of this right here. I'm going to have to add some wires and do a lot of splicing to get this to work. I think. We'll see. And then also today I'm hoping to find the powers and grounds and start figuring out where to get power and ground to the engine harness and the ECM.